We've got Tara Kangarlou. She's an adjunct professor at Georgetown University and author. She joins us live from London. Professor, hello, good seeing you. Thank you for your time. Firstly, do you consider the U.S. demands reasonable?
I think more than it being reasonable, I would say that the United States is pressuring the Iranian government to its maximum, trying to get as much as it can from a regime that seems to be at its weakest. So that's how I would frame it. We are at a place where Washington is trying to negotiate pretty much everything else that was not on the table during the previous nuclear talks. And I think the question is how much Iran is going to give. But also, my question is, what is Iran getting in return? Because the United States has not yet confirmed the lifting of sanctions that have crippled the country's economy, topped with domestic corruption. I think this we must talk about, that is affecting millions of Iranians in the country. So we have to wait and see what Iran is willing to give to avoid any military altercations with the United States. And also, what is Iran getting? That is my question right now.
And it's a relevant question. Also, Professor, with U.S. warships massed in the region and leadership warnings of a regional war if Iran is attacked, how is Tehran meant to manage these talks and the threat of U.S. force?
Of course. Iran, right now, the Iranian regime, I have to say, is not going to these negotiations from a position of power, from any position of leverage. Because, again, we saw what happened in the country. The majority of the population is very much against the repressive regime inside. And on top of that, Donald Trump has been extremely critical of the Islamic regime. We saw what happened in June. We saw how the negotiations were interrupted by the Israeli attacks. So the risks are extremely high for the Iranian government. We also mentioned earlier the proxies and Iran's proxy allies in the region being Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen. We also have to look at their standing. They're not necessarily at a strong point in their positioning, whether it be in Lebanon or Yemen. And also, what I find very interesting is the developments in Iraq. Donald Trump has been very critical of the new government, the new potential government in Iraq, which seems to be very pro-Iran. And so that is something that we should look closely. But what we're seeing regionally is countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, the UAE, Turkey, they are coming together to diffuse any tension. And today, just moments ago, Pakistan is also invited to the talks that your correspondents talked about that would presumably take place this Friday. So we have to wait and see. But the bottom line is, regional powers are very clear that they don't want military escalation. The costs are going to be extremely high for both Iran and also the United States.
Based on you saying, Professor, that Iran is not negotiating from a place of power, and based on everything else you've said, quite valid points throughout this conversation. I know you're not a politician. I hate to ask you this question, but what advice would you give the Iranian government in negotiating with the U.S. from this position of weakness? Do they just coalesce and say yes to every U.S. demand, just to keep the peace?
You said it very well. Yes, of course. I am not a politician, but a journalist. And I think my biggest question in all of this is, how is a potential deal going to have an impact on 90 million ordinary Iranians who came on the streets, paid the highest price with their lives, telling that we want change, telling that telling the world that we want a normal life. The Iranian people deserve so much better, and I think they are waiting to see how all of this, whether there's a military strike, whether there's a deal, how is all of this going to have an impact on their lives? And the other thing that I would add is the rhetorics that come from the White House and also, the behavior of the Iranian government. These have real impact on the lives of ordinary citizens. And I think it's quite irresponsible, particularly for the President of the United States, as we saw a few weeks ago, to say, Iranian people, come on the streets. We are there to support you. We are there to help you. But that help never came. And, it reminds me of President Obama's red line in Syria in 2012, that if Assad uses any form of chemical weapons, we are going to support the Syrian people and we're going to put an end to it. And we, of course, saw that did not happen. I covered that story since then. And I was just in Ghouta, where the chemical attacks took place in 2013. So these promises, these empty promises that are given to desperate people at their darkest hours are, quite frankly, part of the repression. And my hope is that whatever happens, the well-being of ordinary Iranians in Iran is considered, because they have paid the highest price with their lives and continue to do so with their well-being.
Indeed, history is full of precedents. An honor to speak with you, Professor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.